Well, hello everyone. I'm happy to be here with you guys today. My name is Kafaya, and this is Do Space Digital After School Coded. On today's session, I would be exposing you guys to the world of Kano Code. I'm very excited because this is a very fun and exciting way to learn about programming and just practicing the programming concepts that you would use for the rest of your life, I hope. So, just to make you guys a bit more comfortable with the world of Kano Code, the first thing we're going to do today is create a smiley face, right? And this would be a good way to refresh our memory on drag and drop coding and just how fun working with Kano Code can be. So, as you can see, I am right here on the challenge page for the smiley face. And I'm going to put this in the chat box so everyone that's interested can work along with me. Let me just copy and put that in the chat. And please feel free to let me know if you have any questions or comments, if something isn't working the way you want it to. I'm here to help you figure that out. Okay, as you can see, there's like a yellow light that's blinking, and that is what is going to lead us through the challenge. And we are going to basically follow the steps and read the instructions and do exactly what they tell us to do. So the first thing to do is to grab a background color block to give your canvas some color. So I'm going to go ahead and drag the set background color block right from here and attach it to everything that I have here. Awesome. And now I'm going to go ahead and change the color. There's three options for the colors that we can choose. You have purple, blue, and orange. So I'm going to go ahead and choose orange because it's bright and pretty. Okay, awesome. So now the next thing to do is to set the color for your emoji. So drag the fill block into the code space. I'm going to go ahead and drag and attach it. Cool. And now I'm changing my black to yellow, just like the instruction says. The awesome thing about Kano Code is that you can do this on your own time, and you don't have to be nervous if you've never worked with it before, because they have steps that would guide you through everything. So right here, we're drawing a circle that would be the face of our emoji, and I'm going to change my number from 5 to 150. Awesome! And now, before you add the eyes, pick up a move to block to draw them in the right place. We all know our eyes are at the top of our face, right above the nose. We don't want to put our eyes at the bottom, at least not for this challenge. So let me go ahead and click, drag, and place it right here. And I'm changing number 5 to 400, just like the instruction says. And the next thing to do is to change my Y position to 250. Awesome. So give your face some eyes. Drag the stamp block onto your code space, and right here in the tray, as you can see, this is my stamp block. I would drag it and place it right below all the other blocks that I have. And now I'm changing it from crocodile. That looks a bit funny, but we don't want crocodile in our eyes, so we're going to change that to eyes. Cool. And now I'm going to go ahead and change the size of my eyes just to so it's more proportional to the face that I have. And now I'll give that the value of 150. And now I'm going to drag the move block into my code space. So I'm clicking, dragging, and placing. And now I'm going to add a mouth. And I'm basically following the same steps that I used to get my eyes. And now I'm going there. I'm going to change it from crocodile to a mouth with the tongue out. And the move by block moves from the last position you drew something rather than using the coordinates of the canvas. Right now, the tongue is being drawn on top of the eyes because it only moved 5 pixels away from where you last drew something. So now I need to put the tongue where it's supposed to be. So I'm changing the X value from 5 to 0. And now my Y value is going to be 150. Awesome. So there we have it. I hope that was a good way to get you introduced or refreshed on the world of CanoCode. And we have a very fun, this is how excited I want you guys to feel at the end of today's activities, right? So now that we're all done with our fun smiley face, let's get to the real work of the day. Just take 2 seconds to complete what you're working on if you haven't finished, and we can go back to what we have right here. So we successfully made our emoji. We're kind of awesome for that. And now we're going to go ahead to learning about loops. I want to make sure to, as much as it is fun to build games and play them and share them with our friends, I hope to make sure that you guys learn the fundamentals of programming or coding. So a good way to start is to break down each of the concepts, and in the coming weeks we would tackle at least one programming concept every week. So for this week we have loops, and I have this fun and kind of exciting video that's going to give us a great introduction into what loops are. So let's get started.
Let's go! Think about a task where you have to do the same thing multiple times. Let's say you have to clear the table after a family dinner. You pick up a plate, bring it to the sink, wash it off, and dry. Not too hard, right? But what if you have a big family and you need to do this for every family member's dish? Maybe this means repeating the same task 6 times. Computers require very specific instructions to perform their tasks. So if you wanted to tell your robot friend to do the dishes instead, you couldn't just say, "Clean all the dishes." It's not specific enough. If you want a computer to repeat the same action 6 times, you would need to write 6 separate lines of code, the same exact instructions over and over and over. So annoying, right? Fortunately, there is a way to tell a computer to repeat an action without needing to repeat all the code. This command is called a loop. In programming, loops are the third of the flow control structures and allow us to use just one command to repeat the same process multiple times and complete a task. Loops are all about keeping your code dry. Dry means don't repeat yourself. So what's the problem with repetition? Well, typing out the same code over and over increases programming time. Also, if you have to write the same thing again and again, you're more likely to make a mistake somewhere. Make your code shorter with a loop. Now it's easier to debug and saved you time. So what does a loop look like in a program? Well, in JavaScript, loops look like this. This code will loop 6 times. But in Codable, this is what we use to program a loop. This looper will repeat 2 commands a certain number of times to achieve an outcome. A block of code like this works the same as code like this. In both, your fuzz will move right, up, right, up. But what do you notice about the 2 programs? This first option is shorter and drier. It will only take up 1 command bin in the game. The second option is not dry at all. It uses 4 commands and repeats the same commands twice. Now it's your turn. Use as few commands as possible to get the fuzz through the maze. Start by looking at the maze for patterns. Here I want my fuzz to move right, and then down, right, down, right, down, right. Instead of dragging out all those repeating commands, I can use the looper and set it to loop the commands down and right 3 times.
1, 2, 3.
I went from needing 6 commands to only 1. When you think you've figured out how to dry up your code like this, test it out. Good luck!
Woohoo!
If you liked this video, let us know by giving it a thumbs up. And be sure to subscribe if you want to see more. Happy coding!
Awesome. So that was a fun video. Can anyone tell me anything that stood out to them or anything that they learned from watching that quick fun video? Well, I'll go. Something that especially stood out to me was the acronym DRY. And that stands for Don't Repeat Yourself. And that acronym basically encompasses everything that loops are for. They help you save time when writing code, and you're also able to execute like amazing things with shorter lines of code, and it makes it easier to debug if there's actually something wrong with your code. If the lines aren't as many, it's easier to find where the problem is. And yes, that is all I think from that video. So we're going to move on to Kano Code, to working with loops on Kano Code. And as you can see from the list of challenges that we have here, I'm hopeful that at the end of exploring these various challenges that you guys would have a greater understanding of how loops work in programming. So let's get started with the first challenge, which is Starry Sky. And of course, don't forget, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to let me know in the chat box. I will be more than happy to help you with any problem regarding what we're working with today. Okay, so let's get started with our first challenge. It says, computers are great at doing something over and over. In coding, this is called a loop, just like we just learned. Time to create a night sky filled with stars using the power of loops. Awesome! Let's go. Okay, the coding blocks on the left are now heating away because they've been sorted into trays. Draw, click, or tap on draw to open the tray and see what the blocks look like inside. So this is me tapping on the draw tray, and I'm doing the same for the math tray and the control tray. So every time I click, it opens and shows me all the blocks of code that are in that tray. So what we need for the next step of this challenge is the draw tray. So I'm going to go in there and select the block that helps me choose a background color. So right here, I'm clicking, dragging, and placing it. So when my app starts, I for sure know that I want to change my background color to black, just like the night sky is dark. Okay, so next we're going to use the type of loop that is called a repeat block. These blocks run the code within them over and over again. And to get the repeat block, we're going into the control tab. I'm going to click, drag, and place the block that says repeat 10 times. And now I want to change that from 10 to 100 because I want to make sure that we have as many stars in our night sky as we can. So I'm changing 10 to 100. And now I'm going back into my draw tray just because we all know an empty loop block isn't going to do anything. So I'm going into my draw tray and I'm going to choose the block that helps me fill a color. So draw, fill color, and I'm going to change that to white because that's the closest thing we have that would help us mimic what stars look like in the night sky. So next, use a random position block so each star would be drawn in a different position. And now I'm going back into my draw tray for that, and I will draw something that's going to move from one random position to the other. So draw, I'm clicking, dragging, and placing it. And now I'm going to go back to my draw tray to select the size. So I'm going to go in here and draw a circle with the radius of 5. They look a little too big to be stars right now, as you can see. Let me make that bigger. This, yeah, it looks too big for what we want to execute. So you can use the random number block to make them different sizes. And to do that, we're going to go into the math tray and choose the random number block. And I'm going to change this from 1 to, from 1 to 2. Okay, so let's see. This looks pretty cool and it looks like a night sky. And I like the variations of the sizes of the different stars. And yeah, so pat yourself on the back because you just succeeded in using loops to create a night sky. That is awesome, right? Cool. So let's go on to our next challenge. And now we're going to create a shiny crown using loops, of course. So make a shiny crown with sparkles that move. Ooh, let's see how we're going to make that happen. So open the control tray where the repeat block leads. Okay, I feel like I should have given you guys a few more seconds just to catch up. So let's do that. We're going to go back. Oops, no we're not. Okay, so I'll wait before I start with this step so anyone that's working with me can catch up and at least enjoy stargazing and of the skies, of the stars that we created. So let's count 30 seconds and we can go ahead and continue with our next challenge. I got so excited that I forgot to wait for you guys to catch up. Okay. Awesome. I think that that's enough time for us to continue with our next challenge. Okay, so now we're making a crown with shiny stars that sparkle all around it. And we're using loops, of course. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is open the control tray where the repeat blocks are. And we use our repeat blocks to help us repeat the same action over and over again, just so that our code isn't too long or too tedious. And it helps us save time because we're not writing the same line of code over and over again. We're using loops to help us execute that. So I'm going to drag my repeat block right here. So when my app starts, I want it to repeat the same action 80 times, right? And now I'm going to go ahead and draw and move to a random point. I'm going to use the draw a stamp block to find my crown. So now I'm going to find me a shining star. Yeah, but the stars are too big, so much that they don't even look like stars. So I'm going to adjust the size to 20. That's small enough, and that actually looks like shining stars. Cool. I hope everyone's all caught up so we can proceed. The code picks a random position to draw from. It draws a star stamp and does this over and over again 80 times. If you want to go ahead and count, for sure do so. But we're going to move on with the next step, which is before you add the crown, you need to pick where it's going to be drawn from first. Remember, in programming, you have to be very specific with your instructions because the computer only does exactly what you tell it to do. So if you tell it to draw a crown, it doesn't know where the crown is going to go. So we have to be specific with our instructions and tell our crown exactly where we want it to go. So right here, I want to move my crown to the X position of 400, and my Y position would be 300. Awesome. So now the last and final step, I think, would be to add our crown to the canvas. So to do that, I'm going to go into my draw tray and use the stamp block. So I'm drawing. But now instead of a crocodile, I'm gonna go ahead and choose my crown. And now I want to make my crown a bit bigger so it's the focus of the thing we just did. So I'm going to go ahead and put that at 150. Nice. So the next step would be to make the sparkles move by restarting the code. So I'm going to open my control tray, and every one second I want my code to restart. So that way my stars appear at different positions of the canvas every time, every 1 second. As you can see, it almost gives it like a motion to it, right? Because now it looks like it's moving around, but my stars are only just appearing and restarting every 1 second. Okay. So now every 1 second the code will restart, which will run the code over and over again because the sparkles are drawn in random places each time. It looks like they're moving, just like I said. Let's change the every 1 second block to run faster so the sparkles move more, right? So instead of seconds, I wanted my stars to sparkle every millisecond. That just went and that just went crazy. So I'm going to change that 1 to 100 just so there's some sanity to it. So as you can see, this is what we have here. Just imagine if we didn't have loops, you would have to write all of this code over and over again 80 times. And then you would have to manually restart it every time. You see, shout out to code, to loops. Loops are like our most helpful friends. So here we have it. We have our shiny stars and crown. So before we move on to the next challenge, I'll let you guys enjoy playing with your or watching your crown just sparkle for I guess like a minute. Let's do a 60-second countdown. And while you watch your crown sparkle, I want you to think about loops and why we love them so much. Because they make life so much easier and they make our work neater and shorter. And we're able to do so much in such little time. Awesome. Okay. Okay, so I think now is a good time to go on to our next challenge, which is the Wandering Tales. Okay, so what we're going to do for this challenge is we're going to make a drawing that wanders around the canvas all by itself, almost like it's searching for something. So to get started, we're going to set our background color, and to do that, we're going into the draw tray, and we will select the block that helps us draw or set a background color. I'm going to click, drag, and place that right below my block that says when the app starts. Okay, so I'm going to change the background color to, it says any color that I want. So I'm going to go ahead and choose maybe blue, since it looks like the sky. Yes, it's close enough to white and a little bit of blue. Yeah, okay. So now we're going to grab a loop block from the control tray. I'm going to go ahead, and you know our best friend Loop is going to help us again here. So every 1 second, we want it to repeat an action, but I'm going to change my 1 second to 1,000 milliseconds, I think. Okay, never mind. Okay. So set the color you're going to be drawing with and open the draw tray. So we already did that. And now I'm going into my draw tray. I'm going to choose a fill color. And remember, all of this goes into my repeat block because we're working with loops. Cool. So now I'm going back to my color tray, and because I want to surprise, I'm going to use the random color block. So I don't know what color is going to show, which is exciting, and we'll see what surprises lie ahead for us. So the next thing to do is to draw the circle radius, the circle with the radius of 5. Why did I say that like that? Okay, so I'm drawing a circle with the radius of not 5 but 10. So make sure to change your 5 to 10. And as you can see already, our circle is glowing, which is fun. And now it looks quite flashy. It's very pretty and almost distracting. I just want to sit and watch it glow for as long as, but that's not what we're here for. So every 1 millisecond, your code picks a random color to draw with, and then it draws a circle. That's fun. So now we're going to add a block to move the circles around so that they don't all draw on top of each other. Nice. Okay. So next, I'm going into my draw tray, and I would be drawing. Ooh, that was interesting. Let's see. And if I refresh, it starts over, and the colors change every time. This is kind of cool. But let's see what we have to do next. Okay. So now every time your loop runs, it would move 5 pixels across and then 5 pixels down before drawing the next circle. Cool. So next we're going to add some blocks to make it more random. Okay, I'm all for random. And so we're going to go into our math tray and drag our block of code that moves from a certain random number to another. And we're going to set it from -10 to 10. So we're doing the same thing for the x and the y. So now I'm changing this to -10. Oh, okay. It almost looks like it's trying to draw out a shape. This is very cool. Let's ignore that. And if we refresh, it starts over. And as you can see, it goes in a different direction. Just because of the random block that we used, I'm going to refresh again. Nice. I wonder if it can't fill out the entire background that we have. This is very cool. I really like loops. And just like it says here, if your circles wander off the canvas, all you have to do is refresh, and then it moves in a random direction, not the same direction that it was going before. This is very cool. And very colorful too. Nice, nice, nice. I like when it wanders off and then it comes back again. So let's refresh one more time to see what we are doing here. Nice. So I think that we have, do we have time for one more challenge before we say goodbye? Yes, we do, if we move fast enough. Let's see. Our next challenge is the emoji crowd, which is fun because we basically just practiced with drawing an emoji earlier today. Who would have thought that it would come in handy again? Okay, so use the power of loops to move blocks to create a crowd of your very own emojis, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a loop. So every 1 second, we want it to repeat a certain action. And now I'm going to have my loop run faster, I'm going to change my 1 to 200. And I'm going to change my seconds to milliseconds. And now we're going to get started with drawing our emoji. And we're choosing a random color for the background. And now we're going into the color tray and we're using a random color block. And now I'm going to draw a circle with the radius of 50. And I need to give it a face. So I'm going to draw and change the x position to 0 and y position to -20. Okay, nice. And the next step would be to do our stamp of the eyes. The eyes look so much bigger than the circle. Let's fix that. So we're changing that from 100 to 50 just so it fits better on the face. Right now this looks a bit funny because it's just a bunch of faces with just eyes staring back at us. Hi. Okay, let's go back. The move by block takes the random position that you drew the circle at and then moves up by 20 pixels before drawing the eyes. Then the loop block repeats it all over again. So now we're going to go ahead and give our emojis, I believe, a mouth. So I'm changing that to 0 and changing that to 50. Remember, we have to be very specific with our instructions just so the computer can execute exactly what we want it to. And now we're giving it a tongue. And of course the tongue looks bigger than the face now because the size isn't proportional. So I'm changing that to 50. And here we have it. We have our emoji crowd. Wow. It's a bunch of silly faces in different colors that repeat themselves over and over and over again. And this is all thanks to our repeat block that repeats the same action every 200 milliseconds. Very cool, right? I hope this exercise has been fun enough to help you guys at least grasp the gist about what loops are. So I'll just refresh so we can get a bunch of new faces. And this is it. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll hang around for a few more seconds to answer your questions. But that's all that I have for you today. If maybe you come up with any more questions after the session and you want to email me, please feel free to send us an email at hello@dospace.org, and also go onto our website at dospace.org to check out the variety of other classes that we offer. And yeah, so in our next session, we're also going to explore more programming concepts like variables, logic, and events. Super exciting, so make sure you tune in or show up. I look forward to learning new things with you guys next week. So have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.